Baddie Behavior. Baddie Behavior. Classic, we're out and about. Obviously, this is a Baddie original.
We're in episode 7 of Baddie Behavior, the podcast, and I want to say thank you for listening. If you have, I want to dive into like what fashion is. So I started my own clothing brand. It's a fashion company called Baddie Behavior, the label, as you know, and with no formal fashion training, what makes me qualified? When I was building my clothing brand, I wanted finding the right words to describe what I was trying to show was hard. I call it sportswear, but I've changed it to athleisure. So the mainstream NARPs know what we're talking about. If you don't know what a NARP is in college, if you played a sport on campus, you would call the normal people that didn't play sports NARPs, non-athletic regular people. It's probably banned today because it was almost banned when I was in college. From 2011 to 2016, I was in college. I went to Marist for undergrad and then Fordham for my last year. Marist, it's everyone from the tri-state area. It's a private college on the Hudson River. I mean, we were D1, but it's just like we weren't like a big school or anything. So fashion is culture. Fashion is who you are to the crux of it. So we would call these regular people NARPs, and we'd say it to their face, oh, you're a NARP, you're a NARP. Like, it was just to help categorize who we're talking to. Oh, she's on the soccer team. Oh, she's on the lacrosse team. Oh, she's a NARP. So, and then this kind of got this caught on in a negative way, to a point where our coach had to talk to us because there were numerous complaints against mainly my class for saying this, probably because my voice does carry the loudest and people do remember me a little bit more so yeah, there was a formal complaint against the women's soccer team for using NARPs, and then like we were best friends with like the lacrosse girls, we would just feed off each other, so like we were all roommates, so it was just like okay, but it got me really thinking I was like, why are you offended when you're a non-athletic regular person? Anyway, where does fashion come from? So it's like the chicken and the egg kind of thing. It's like, does it come from necessity or does it come from showing your artistic way? And honestly, fashion comes from function, and athleisure definitely comes from that. So athleisure right now is $315 billion, and by 2030 that's going to go up to $700 and change billion. It's going to keep rising. And why is that? And there's so many different factors of why an industry is booming. I mean, people are prioritizing their health more, people are working out, and people also, there's cultural shifts, and every generation goes through this. But how did athleisure start and where does it come from? Well, fashion comes from functionality, and that seeps down in 1800s, 1900s. If you were wealthy, there were certain indicators that said you were rich. It was having a different outfit for each activity. And this might seem a little bit, obvious. But back in the Industrial Revolution, if you were working in the factories, you had your outfits to go to work and come back, and you weren't hunting. You weren't playing croquet. You weren't going to the country club. You weren't going to the Hamptons beaches. So they had that one outfit. It's interesting to me. So also a signal of wealth was having the appropriate clothes for the weather. I know that sounds also like, that obvious, but the weather was unpredictable. If you lived, in the Northeast of the United States, like New England, and then here it rains, it snows, it's muddy in the spring. Having the appropriate attire set you apart. And like, it was just not even, they just could afford to have rain boots sitting around that they didn't wear every day. Maybe they wore it 5 times a year. I don't know. These things creates kind of like that Ralph Lauren effect. It's Americana. It's basically like, okay, so sportswear began in the 1900s, and I like to call Baddie Behavior sportswear. I say athleisure so people understand, but sportswear is encompassing a whole lifestyle. I'm trying to bring the sportswear back so people could understand. But anyway, in the early 20th century, sportswear became because of practical needs. That's when sports were coming. Before, we didn't really have a need for it because of the Industrial Revolution and the turn of the century. There were other things going on, like building up cities in America. The 1800s, the Gilded Age, people were worrying about building New York City and the country, and with the railroads, there was a lot of things to be done. And in every generation, there are ups and downs. And that's why you also see when there's not work to be done, that's when we get to when civilization gets to the end of a Renaissance or something, that's when you do see we have kind of more free time to question things. So in the early 1900s, people did participate in sports like golf, tennis, and horseback riding. These are for the wealthy people, and they needed things to wear that signified they were doing that certain activity. So these are pleated skirts, these are shorts, these are sneakers, equestrian outfits. And so modern sports really helped because of the Olympics, and organized sports really created an environment that was like, okay, you're doing this and that. My radiator's so loud. Honestly, sportswear and athleisure started because of the rise of modern sports and the Olympics in the late 19th century and 20th centuries. With specialized gear became a necessity. The wool jerseys, the track outfits, the cleats, and the cotton shorts, they were early staples and just honestly made for function. It wasn't, people weren't wearing it for fashion. America really started the sportswear revolution in the 1920s and 30s. And this is something that is personal to me. My great grandfather, John J. Curran, he was on the U.S. water polo Olympic team for Paris 1928 Olympics, but he grew up in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. So my grandfather and my grandma, obviously, in Queens. So sportswear was used as a term because people were doing outdoor activities, going on hikes. And then brands in the 1930s like Champion and Adidas, we started creating clothes for these athletes in these events, and that kind of started a way to like distinctively, there could be some fashion to it. They were making things specifically for sports, and fashion comes from, these are things that are just for the sports teams, and then it trickles down to mainstream. But it takes a little bit of a while to do. Technology comes into it. So after World War II, there was advancements in fabric like nylon and stretchy materials, and that gave advancements to outerwear and sportswear. The stretch made it ideal for the athletes to wear in their performance and their games. And you would start to see people wearing these sneakers a little bit in their normal life, but not so much. It honestly took a while for athleisure to get going. In 1960s to 80s, that's when fitness kind of started to go mainstream. If you ask your parents, ask your grandparents, did they go on runs? Did they work out, go to the gym? No, they really didn't. It wasn't part of the culture, but their food was cleaner. They didn't eat as much, and mainly the food was cleaner, and also didn't snack. So they were lean. They were just being humans, and their lifestyle was a little bit less sedentary. They didn't have phones. They were going out. They're doing things. So each generation has their own way of defining what it is. Now, as a society that has, you can order food to your door, you can do a workout in your apartment, you can sit on your phone. It's almost too easy. And people kind of want to cosplay. So basically from the 1960s to 2000s, that's when you would see a more boom of it. So mainly the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that's when you see the tracksuits. That's when you see the fitness, Jane Fonda popping up, blowing up. So I would inherit my great-grandfather's, what they wore is now cool. I grew up seeing these silhouettes. I saw the Olympian sweatsuits, the crisp lines, the way they sat, the colors, red, white, blue, navy. And then my mom and dad, my mom was a fitness trainer in the city in New York, and she trained Brooke Shields, and my dad played soccer in Europe and then over here. And so they always had Adidas, Nike sweatsuits, and I would go up and look at their things. But seeing the different colorways and all of that, and then playing my own sports and being born in the 90s, early 2000s, I would see things. Mainly fashion comes from your hobbies and who you are. And that's what kind of made it interesting. When I was growing up, we had flip phones. I got in high school. My parents didn't let us have it any earlier, but it was like 2007. Like, you don't really need, we had AIM, we had a computer in our room. It was pretty epic. We had a big Mac, iMac in our room. That was like awesome. But fashion comes from what your interests are, what songs you listen to. Do you play sports? And right now, I think there's a kind of a lack of individuality for people because everything is so across the board. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. It's like when you have too many opinions coming at you. Before, when we were in high school, in middle school, like, you picked out the color you wanted, you saw, and like you wore it, and you're like, okay, this is what I like. And you kind of just like did things how you knew, or like how your mom or your friends taught you. Like, I played soccer. I was always up early. We had to run at 5 a.m., shower, and like my hair was like, I didn't know what to do with it. And also, like, I didn't feel comfortable wearing my hair down. It just was not in me. I just couldn't do it. And I didn't wear my hair down until honestly college. But like, we were the soccer girls, and growing up playing sports, these hobbies created who I am in my style, and some things stick with you. That's why I could put on sweatpants, a sweatshirt, socks, and sneakers, and it would look totally different on me than you, just because of how I style it and I need for my purpose. So in college, we were playing soccer, and our sweatpants sometimes didn't have the elastic on the bottoms, and that was just the style that they'd just send to all the Nike teams, and it was just like, it wasn't a thing. I don't know what was going on. So we had like crew socks or our soccer socks. We tuck them into our pants, and because we didn't want the pant covering our cleat, touching the ball, it was more so like, okay, it'd be cold November. Like I said earlier, it was in upstate New York. I played soccer, and then the Bronx. Function creates fashion, and I still to this day, I like the vibe of it. If I want to show off my sock or my sneaker more, I will tuck in my crew socks to it, but I would have on biker shorts or spandex at the time, and like maybe fold my pants because they were too big. They give us men's sizes, and like you would see a little bit. The way you would tailor things on the team, because they just gave you like men's sweatsuits, it was kind of like you had to figure it out how to work. And that's kind of how I do with Baddie Behavior. I like to rollerblade. I love to go on walks. I go on runs. I play basketball. Creating Baddie Behavior, when I'm designing, it was more for function, because what I do, throughout my day, I wear different outfits. So I have my bra and my spandex underneath my sweatpants, and then I have my crew socks. And then, so if I'm going to play basketball at the park and I have wired headphones, I want to put it in my pocket. The phone's going to slide out. And so I have pockets with zippers, because that's what I inherently need at the time. And I think it adds a little bit of stability to, walking the street. You're not gonna lose your keys, but also little details is what makes fashion. And like this hat I'm wearing a washed, it's the Americana hat. It's like a washed red. But I remember being in Montauk growing up, my mom, I would just love seeing her sweatshirt. Like she wore it for like 15 years and it naturally tarnished, like looked a little bit faded. And I liked that look. I liked the Americana, the Ralph Lauren, that kind of vibe. And I wanted to incorporate it into my collections. And I have the Olympian line that is a nod to my great grandfather. I have his Olympic pieces. I wanted to use those same colors and that Americana cut in a way that will look good on me, how I want to do it. And then my varsity collection has patches that represent what I did in high school, like section 2, winning championships, birth year on there, and the different varsity sports. Because when I was in high school, we got these varsity letters with the pins, and we didn't have Letterman jackets, but we had these big block letterings that I would make for the sweatsuits. So fashion is something, the more you lean into who you are, it's like your own fingerprint. When I'm designing my clothes, it's like I'm also bridging function and fashion, because honestly, I didn't see what I needed in the market, so I made it. But also I wanted it to look how I remembered what I saw, but in a new way. Being in the 90s, I liked the loose sweatpant that had a little bit movement to it. Or there are certain things that I didn't like in 2007 that are making a comeback now. And it's interesting to see that who you are creates your fashion. Like that's important. Like lean into who you are. I decided I wanted to take the best parts from playing varsity sports and college sports. Not everything was amazing. A lot of the times I didn't want to do it. I have other interests. I loved band. I loved creating art. But to pay the bills was playing soccer. My sister, we were just talking about this today. There's home videos of her in our backyard on Long Island running back and forth soccer ball, and I just wanted to chill. And there's a picture of us literally playing at the start circle, and my head's down and she's ready to go. But you're 6. I love the function of sportswear and athleisure wear. I think it's unique because you can dress it up, you can dress it down. Some people don't take athleisure seriously. I do. It's a distinct style, and if you do it correctly, you can look really, really good. And I love the juxtaposition of putting a long trench coat with my outfits tucked into my sock, with my beanie, my hair down like a little scarf. That's where I feel my most confident and I look my best. I really do. And I love a hat. I love the way it makes me feel. When I was like 2 to 7, I wouldn't take off a hat. It was my comfort. When I do feel overwhelmed, I put it on. But it also it's a function. A nice hat can elevate a look. I don't think we use accessories like we did in the 90s anymore, like you see on Friends and Rachel Green and all that. Women being able to dabble in the athleisure world, but elevate it too. It's like that's where I'm so excited about my clothing brand. Because as I get older and I remember and I see how things are moving out, I really do believe that athleisure is something that can motivate people to work out and also be part of a team. The best part about playing soccer wasn't even the memories of playing soccer. It was singing on the bus, going to pasta parties. It was traveling with my friends, my teammates. And winning championships is one thing. Being on the field and being together, those most of the time it sucked, grueling, horrible, but made me stronger. And I wanted to create Baddie Behavior because I wanted that same team feeling. I want other people I want them to look good. I'm taking what I know best, playing at high level soccer and being born in the 90s, growing up in the late 90s to early 2000s. There was a lot of culture back then. There was a lot of different flavor. There was a lot of different looks. And seeing from my past of my great grandfather's collection from the Olympics, he was on the Olympics. He's part of the Olympics also as a player and a coach till the 1960s. I have a great repertoire of what he has. And my mom has shown me, it's from her side. And then him being in the New York Athletic Club, and we would have hats, New York Athletic Club growing up. And just it was just part of the essence of who we are. And basically growing up in the early 2000s and mid 2000s was so fun. And there was so much color. There was so much energy going on, but there's definitely aspects I want to hone in and take out. The importance of hobbies and being yourself and tuning to yourself makes you unique. Do you see those outfits of like people wearing like the Adidas long shorts with heels and like socks? And that became like a really micro trend. If you wear anything with confidence and you feel good in it, then that is going to transcend. It's all about energy. Fashion is energy, and fashion is about using what you feel good in. And if you don't feel good in something, it's going to show. Like when I was going to my first bar mitzvah in 7th grade wearing a dress, I was so uncomfortable and it showed. But also, you know, I'm 13, like it's new, but well, I wear dresses now, but like I love wearing sweatsuits. And if you see me at my fifth birthday party, all I wanted was a sweatsuit. But even though I don't have a fashion degree, I'm not making like ball gowns. I'm making things that I've had years of involved in. It's who I am. And I have so many designs in me that are bursting out. And when I have a design, it's just like, okay, let me go to my computer. Let me get this out. And working on it, working through something, start to finish, you'll get something so different. Or there's sometimes where like I know exactly what it is and I just puts it out. I'm like, perfect. Like my first launch, my first few collections, I work a lot in my mind prior. The way my mind works is I don't really go to the board with like nothing. If I do, I won't do that. In my mind, I can piece together the whole pieces that change out the looks, and I use myself. I'm just like, oh, how would that look at me? So I do a lot in my mind. Some people call this procrastination. And I'll wait till I'm inspired by something. I'm not going to push something. Then I go on a walk and then I'm like, oh, I should add this. Or like, oh, let me take this out. It's hard for me to write things out in a planner. Like growing up, I would always want to be that girl. Like we had those planners and I couldn't. I would do it for like a week. Yes. And it was just my homework. I was writing down like, oh, the DBQ for social studies, 7th period. Everyone write down, no problem. Like, no, like I just mentally knew what I needed to do and what I didn't need to do. And like I never missed homework, and writing it down didn't do anything for me. So same thing with this process. I'll get like visions of what I need to do or like what I need to change. And I already just know, I know what will work. With Baddie, I'm trying to make a timeless collection. So no matter when you pick it up, you'll feel like, oh, this will work for me. And it's fun athleisure. It's fun, but the designs are serious. And I really like that juxtaposition. I really do. I saw this sign the other day. I was walking in Soho and it said vibes, fine art. I took a picture of it. I was like, I like it. The text was strict. Vibes, you think the opposite of fine art. Oh, that's vibes. It's like flowing. Fine art, you think structured, pinpoint. That's why it works. I'm like, oh, I was intrigued. And you can name anything. So Baddie Behavior doesn't seem so silly, does it? To be a designer brand like anything else. Also, one of the funny things that happened this week, I bought this lotion. It's like barrier cream. It's called Self-Made. It's more than a lotion. It's kind of like jelly, but it's not. It's the only thing that actually works for my skin. So I ordered it on my Apple thing. I'm like, yes, I've been waiting like 6 days for it. So it said it was delivered. I was like, okay, I checked. I'm like, oh my God, it's not here. And I checked again. So I emailed them and I was like, hi, it said it was delivered. I just want to make sure. Sometimes it says delivered, didn't come yet. And they're like, oh no, it said it was delivered too. So then I checked again. I was like, it shipped to the wrong address because I did that myself. And my Apple Pay, it changed it by one number. I don't know why. Like they're like, you check your neighbors. My neighbor is Anna Wintour. I was like, oh my God, like I shipped it to her house. So I went over there and she wasn't there. So I was like, okay, Anna Wintour has my cream. Hopefully she enjoys it. So I emailed them back. I'm like, oh my God, listen, it was my fault. You don't have to send me another one, but I think it went to Anna Wintour's house. And then they were just like, oh my God, like they're a small business. I'm a small business. So I didn't want to stress and be like, oh, it didn't deliver. Cause like I get worried about my packages delivering to people. So I was like, listen, no, it's my bad. And I'm like, it went to her house. She definitely has it because it's not in her mailbox in there. She might like it now. And then they're like, we love the street I live on. Like, oh, I know that street. And it was just funny. They're like, we're going to resend you a new one. So being honest, being truthful, and owning up to your mistakes when you are wrong is the right way to go. They're like, oh, just can you write a review for us that says your experience? I'm like, yeah, 100% can. So I was just going to buy it again. It was expensive, but I was like, I felt bad. But they're like, no, we'll send you a new one. And that really made me excited about building my brand and also being part of this community. And also just like doing the right thing is important. If you think it only affects you, it doesn't. So Anna Wintour, if you see my lotion, enjoy it because you're going to love it. This episode, I love history. I love seeing the way people work, what's going on with that. So I don't see athleisure going or sportswear going anywhere. It's something that brings people together. People love sports, people being on a team. And I also wanted to create an environment that anyone could join and feel good. I took the best aspects of my great-grandfathers, my parents, and me and my life from real New Yorkers. This is authentic. I'm not creating like things I don't understand. I mean, one of the fun facts, you know that sneakers used to be called plimsolls, Plimsolls, because of the plimsoll line on the side of a ship. I think that's funny. Yeah, just continue being a baddie. Do your hobbies and wear some baddie behavior. You can mix and match and create your own looks, but still be cohesive. I think it's so cool and I love it. But have a great day, baddies, and I'll see you next time.
Baddie behavior. Baddie behavior. Classic, wearing out and about. Obviously, this is a baddie original.